Hello, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and here we talk about harmful beliefs and ideas promoted by certain influencers, content creators, and so on. And today, we're discussing Brett Cooper and the age-old question, can feminists get married? Before we get into it, I would like to note that I don't know Brett, and these are my thoughts and opinions on the content she puts out for public consumption. That being said, thank you for clicking on this video, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. Links to my socials and Patreon are below, along with sources and resources, and now, on to the reason we're all here. Brett Cooper is a political commentator for the Daily Wire network, and as she has over 3 million subscribers, I'm sure we're all aware of her. She posted a video a couple months ago asking if feminists can get married, and well, let's get into it. Brett is using Millie Bobby Brown, a 19-year-old actress who was in Stranger Things, as her starting point for this video. She opens with noting how happy she was to see Millie get engaged earlier this year, and then we switch to the main subject. That Millie went to a psychic and was told she's a feminist and decided she was after Googling, how do I know if I'm a feminist? And though Brett is all for Millie getting married, she doubts that Millie fully understands feminism.
However, it seems like Millie might not fully understand what comes with the title of feminist in our modern society, because some of her biggest self-interests in life completely contradict that statement and what it means.
I would love to know how Brett thinks she knows what Millie's biggest self-interests in life are, because so far as I'm aware, they're not friends. Brett goes on to read a tweet about Millie's feminist awakening thanks to the psychic, and I would like to know if feminism is some world-controlling force capable of destroying whole nations. How did a celebrity make it 19 years without apparently hearing about it? Interesting. Anyway, the main thing that strikes Brett isn't the psychic, it's the Google search, and well,
now this is just my point of view, but if you have to do a Google search to figure out whether you are a feminist or not, there's a chance that you are just reaching a little bit to identify with that group.
Can someone explain this to me? I thought we all looked things up online, especially things that interest or are new to us, and personally, I'm more struck by the psychic. Also, I thought psychics were supposed to predict your future, not tell you who you are or what they think you believe. And for anyone wondering, I don't think badly of Millie or anything for not knowing what feminism is. I didn't find out until my mid-20s. Anyway, Brett goes on to read some tweet reactions to this, and then she tells us why she thinks it's weird Millie had to Google feminism.
If you actually really needed feminism in 2023, you would not be Googling to find out if you were actually a feminist, because we already have equal opportunity. You're just trying to identify with this group to feel something, basically.
So because a teenage celebrity didn't know about feminism, that means we don't need it? What an interesting conclusion. I also feel like this is a common conservative conclusion. Oh, you're not really that thing, you just want to feel something, which I don't get. Of course, it's nice to agree with a group, but if the group isn't physically present, you don't get that quiet thrill of we're all on the same page. And if you're faking that agreement to fit in, you also don't get that satisfaction. And if a psychic was the one to introduce Millie to feminism, I don't think she was running in a feminist crowd. Anyway, from here, we move to Millie's interview in Glamour.
After reading articles and books, she really grasped the idea of feminism and what it means to me. She said, ultimately, it's about opportunity. Her production company aims to tell stories about what girls and women can be. A slate of forthcoming PCMA films on the horizon includes Damsel, in which she will play a dragon-fighting princess alongside Angela Bassett and Robin Wright. Quote, the theme is feminism. She said, thrilled. She looks forward to opportunities to cast other women, to give chances to performers who might otherwise be overlooked.
It's good that she's been doing her research and getting information from various places. I don't really agree with her conclusion that feminism is about opportunity, but that's something about feminism that a lot of anti-feminists can't grasp. Different people will have different conclusions, different priorities. And of course, Brett just straight up mocks it.
The theme is feminism cracks me up, because when is the theme not feminism in 2023? Like feminism in 2023, third and fourth wave feminism, they don't really have a definition for it. It is everything and it is nothing, because modern day feminism is so intersectional that we have totally lost sight of what it actually means. So it's ironic that she's boiling it down to just feminism.
I would say current feminism, regardless of what wave we're on, focuses on intersectionality, which does have a definition. The interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. But of course, Brett either doesn't understand or she doesn't care, possibly both, and so to her it's just nothing. And to me, Millie saying her theme is feminism means she'll be focusing on women's stories. Honestly, if you're not coming from a place of bad faith, it's not hard to understand any of this. But I'm sure you'll all be relieved to know that Brett finds it difficult to be mad at Millie.
But honestly, I can't really be mad about anything I just read because it seems like it's just a sweet young woman who wants to uplift other girls and thinks that women are cool. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
I'm really confused as to why you would be mad at someone for being a feminist in the first place, but it's great that Brett isn't mad. Brett concludes that Millie wants opportunity, which is what earlier feminists were after, and we have that, so now it's done. And I really enjoy how Brett feels comfortable declaring that something she doesn't believe in and isn't part of has achieved its goal. Anyway, Brett says because of Millie's quick Google search, didn't she just read out loud about how Millie read articles and books? Millie probably missed some key elements of modern day feminism, and I am so excited to hear an anti-feminist tell feminists what we're about.
Ironically, Millie is a walking antithesis to many of the talking points of third and fourth wave feminism.
I'm pretty sure if that was true, she wouldn't be publicly calling herself a feminist. But let's hear what Brett's got.
She is one of the very few young women in Hollywood who is making the revolutionary and controversial anti-feminist move of falling in love with a man, and worse, actually marrying that man.
Whenever anti-feminists say this, I call shenanigans. There is no way they actually believe that feminists abstain from love and marriage, and feminism doesn't preclude feminists from forming relationships, romantic and otherwise. The feminist part comes in when you start thinking about all the traditions surrounding, for example, weddings and whether or not you partake in them. Because asking the father for the bride's hand, the father handing the bride off to the groom, the woman taking the man's last name, those are patriarchal traditions. And yes, if you do all the above, you're not making the feminist decision, but that doesn't mean you're not a feminist. Feminists are still people, still individuals with their own thoughts and opinions. The important thing, in my opinion, is to think about something before you do it, get to your why, rather than perpetuating tradition because it's tradition. Back to Brett, she reads another portion of the article, and I'm not too keen on bringing someone's relationship into it, but I think there's something to be learned here.
When I met Jake, I just felt like I could be loud. He embraced that and he encouraged that, and I fell in love with myself while being with him. And she goes on to say that she realized that he loved all the parts of her that she hated most about herself, and that her confidence bloomed while she was with him. You know, she became a better person while being with him, and it's so wonderful. It's so sweet, and it's crazy to think that, oh my God, in 2023, a man could make a woman be comfortable like he helped you love yourself and be more confident. That's crazy. That's not allowed. I mean, come on, Millie. You can't admit that in 2023. You have to do all of that on your own because you're a girl boss. You can't use a man in any way, shape, or form.
I wouldn't recommend using anyone for anything, but it's not feminist saying love and marriage isn't allowed. It's Brett. And of course, she had to go ahead and ruin it, but let's think about how Millie describes her relationship versus what trad wives teach. That you're to be quiet, controlled, submit to his decisions, submit to who he wants you to be. Don't love yourself, die to self. I'm really glad that Millie found someone who helps her be a better person and love herself. And because I'm sure someone will ask, yes, I do think 19 is too young to get married. But maybe they plan on a long engagement, and as I don't know either person, it's none of my business. So far as I'm aware, no one has ever listened to a random on the internet about how they should live their life. Anyway, Brett notes that not only is Millie celebrating this love, but she also plans to marry him, which is, per Brett, a very outdated idea, as this article bravely reveals. I was confused for a moment, but then Brett switches over to an opinion piece about how it's time to break the patriarchal wedding paradigm. Brett, or rather Brett's team, didn't see fit to give us anything about the article beyond the title and some paragraphs, but I'll link the article below for anyone interested in reading it. And I have to say, it's not a surprise, but it's still disappointing to see that Brett is so disingenuous.
So much of wedding culture is steeped in patriarchal traditions and conservative expectations, perhaps not how a lot of couples want to mark the beginning of their life together. And yet, when it comes to weddings, even many equally minded couples go through with the patriarchal motions. Oh dear God, can you believe it? So many people are going through with getting married.
That is not what that line meant, and Brett knows it. The patriarchal motions include the things I mentioned earlier, not the general act of getting married. And that was all she read about the article. So basically, Brett just wants to paint feminists as against marriage in general. Cool, not disingenuous at all. Fun fact, the author of that article is married. Anyway, we move on to yet another article I have to find myself. Marriage is an inherently unfeminist institution.
Given all that marriage has traditionally and currently encapsulated, dowry system, the subjugation of women in housework and the childcare, the erasure of their name, identity, wealth, and profession, it is baffling how we are trying to correct its foundational wrongs rather than questioning its validity in an increasingly feminist world.
I do understand the author's point of view. If something is so flawed, why are we doing backflips trying to make it work in the present day instead of coming up with something better, something without all the baggage? Especially considering studies show that in married couples, women still do the majority of housework and caretaking. I would also like to note that Brett snapped this article up, probably from the headline alone, read one paragraph, and didn't bother to note that the website is based in Mumbai and the author was raised in India. It's my understanding that India is heavily patriarchal, but Brett doesn't think about that. I guess that would be too intersectional for her. Anyway, Brett's got her 2 articles, so she now forms her conclusion.
So based on modern feminist thinking, the idea of having a wedding or even getting married in the first place should make you enraged, as it's just, part of the patriarchy and fulfilling conservative expectation.
Neither article said anything about how the readers should feel about marriage.
Today's feminism is a toxic ideology that only hurts both men and women. It is no longer about equal rights. And truly, I can't even figure out what they are fighting for anymore, other than wanting everybody else to be as miserable and unhappy as they are.
I can't speak to Brett's intelligence, of course. I don't know her. But I suspect that she doesn't understand modern feminism. Well, partly because she thinks she got hers, so she doesn't care, and partly because she's paid not to. The Daily Wire didn't hire Brett to sit there and have thoughtful discussions about issues. They hired her to confirm their audience's existing beliefs so they can rest easy knowing that the world is fine, it's the people trying to change it that are crazy and wrong. And finally.
But Millie Bobby Brown is happy, and she is succeeding in love and in her career, and I'm sure that they hate to see that.
I hope the Daily Wire pays well. Honestly, I don't feel any particular type of way regarding Millie Bobby Brown. I'm glad she's happy, but I don't tend to get too invested in the lives of celebrities. And I bet that's most people's reaction, feminist or no. I've been listening to Brett and her fellow anti-feminists for a while now, and it occurs to me that they don't want to think about what might lead someone to say or write the things they say or write. If they agree with them, it's good. If they don't, it's bad. And that's that. What a shallow and frightening way for adults to think. And is it just me, or is anti-feminism predicated on the belief that feminism is about what women can't do, or more specifically, what feminism doesn't allow women to do? If you do this thing, date, get married, have kids, something universal that most people want, you just can't be a feminist? It is so weird to have anti-feminist gatekeeping feminism. And that concludes another Brett Cooper video. Disappointingly shallow and disingenuous once again. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.